Welcome, everyone, to Hit the Books. I'm Thomas Casale with the man, the myth, the legend, Joey Knish, 22. Knish, hey, I got to say, doing a betting show with you is one of the great moments of my life. It probably tells you how piss poor my life's been up to this point, but it's
you're
really
like
an
the
honor.
fifth or sixth person on the network to say that, so I don't feel embarrassed, Tom. I get that almost every show.
And hey, listen, Knish, I got to be honest. You're one of my favorite followers on Twitter, and you know why? Because I try to do the same thing. You're quality over quantity. People got to tweet about every little thing, right? I know when a Knish tweet comes in, I know it's something good because you don't tweet every 5 seconds.
I love the beat writers that are like 3rd and 5, 3-yard pass.
Right.
Like every fan, I saw it on the screen. I don't need you to tweet out every play. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, listen, I'm really looking forward to this show. We're going to get into the bets in a second. First, just a quick little background on ourselves. What the show is Knish, I've been betting for 33 years. Okay, my first $500 bet was the Cordell Stewart Hail Mary against Michigan. Probably should have stopped there and walked it off, right?
Or not brought that up on this show with this guy.
Right, a big Michigan guy. But hey, listen, Michigan should have won that game outright. But so I've been gambling a long time. I got books where I've bet. I still have them. $115,000 in 6 months with no job. So I have experience. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But when this whole thing started, Knish, I said to myself, I'm not going to mislead people. I'm not a pro bettor, right? Sometimes I'm on the sharp side. Sometimes I'm not. I am who I am. I'm an experienced guy. Give you some information. If you want it, take it. If not, then that's fine too. Now you're a little bit sharper than me, right?
Well, I mean, listen, Tom, it's like, comparing yourself to George Clooney or something like that here. Don't feel bad that, we'll get to see the picks here and we'll see how sharp the iron is from old Tommy Saley over there.
Oh, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Each week, I'm going to give you my 5 picks and the number I got it at. And then you're going to break it down and tell me, man, that's a good number, or boy, you really got screwed on that one. So we're going to get into these in a second, but first, Hit the Books is presented by the Hammer Betting Network. You can check out all their great content at thehammer.bet and all the social media platforms at the Hammer HQ. And if you like the show, please subscribe, like, share, do all that stuff. We could really use everything that we got in there. Hey, Knish, why do you think all these places have HQ at the end of their Twitter handle? Does that mean they just couldn't get the one they wanted?
We should have. There has to be someone that took the hammer out. I'm still waiting for my hammer, swag and paraphernalia in the mail here to get going. But yeah, I don't know. That's a Pizzola. If Pizzola, whatever these Canadian people are that are running the show here, whatever put on there, I wouldn't be surprised that they, screwed it. So yeah. You leave it to a couple of Canadians, and you get an HQ at the end.
Well, listen, great. It's a great company. They got great shows across the board. You're on a few of them. So at the Hammer HQ on Twitter, make sure you check out all the great information they got coming along. So, Knish, we're going to get into my bets here, okay? First bet I placed.
First one of the season, Tommy.
First one, okay?
Don't let me down.
That first one, and this is a fade now of a team. I got Rutgers minus 17 over Temple. And here's my thinking. Temple is a dead body. The program is in shambles. They played Lafayette last week and won 30-14. It was 21-14 at the end of three quarters. They only amassed 360 yards against a bad FCS team. So my thinking is Temple, anything less than 20 points is good value. I'm going to take Rutgers to roll. What do you say?
Tommy, I got to tell you, first, the number you got is all right. What is the big change, though, that happened last week for Temple that's now going into this game? What's the big change? What did they do at the key position that it could significantly impact their productivity? You tell me, because you should know this, Tommy.
I know it. They're starting Kurt Warner's son at quarterback.
Kurt Warner's son. And who is he replacing? Probably the worst Power 5 or FBS quarterback I've ever seen in Dwan Mathis, who's actually from Oak Hill up the road here from Joey K, who told people when he was getting recruited that this guy's a bum. He's been around and around in the program. And let's say, I'm sure he's a nice kid. Hopefully, it paid attention in class because he does not have a future as a pro quarterback. Warner, though, looked a little spicy. So I will say, if there's one thing for me that would keep me off Rutgers this week, A, it's Rutgers. B, they looked much better. And Warner, I can tell you this, he could put a blindfold on. He's a better passer than Dwan Mathis. So for me, if it'd be a little bit of a look on the over, I'm going to lay off this week because I think you could see an improved Temple offense. But hey, at least you're on the right side of the number there. Oak Park, Oak Hill in the comments. It's Oak Park where he was from. The high school there. Wherever he's from, listen, Dwan Mathis, enjoy the rest of your life. Stop playing football.
Okay, so see, now I looked at that and I said, all right, this kid might be good at some point. I'm not expecting much from him right now, but you actually think that could be a significant difference in the game.
And it's not the fact that I think Warner is going to be his dad this week. It's that Dwan Mathis was horrific at playing quarterback everywhere he's been. And you looked at it just even in his drives last week, he came in and Warner looked like he was actually able to complete forward passes, which is an upgrade over what Dwan Mathis was able to do.
Well, I got to tell you, Knish, I was pretty confident in this bet coming in here. Now you got me a little worried. So we'll see how this one goes. So Rutgers minus 17 for me. Knish says maybe the over. So, all right. Now, the second one, I think you're going to like this one. I think you might be on this. You might have got a better number. Let's see. Nebraska plus 11 against Oklahoma. Now, my thinking is I like to bet a team when they first fire a loser coach like Scott Frost, who was an absolute loser, right? Plays a ton of close games, doesn't win them. That's not random luck. It's poor coaching. So I think at home, the team is up. And I don't know much about Oklahoma yet. They haven't really played anybody, new coach, a lot of new players. So I'm grabbing the Huskers plus 11. I think they keep it close at home.
I can't kill you on the number here because every numbers guy that I talk to that I deal with, that I bet for, has been on Nebraska at some number. Obviously, where Circa opened 16, it was down to 14. It's come down all the way down to the 11s now. So I can't kill you therefore on the number because anybody that's making numbers has would have this 10 or lower. The issue I would have is. I was more of a Scott Frost guy than most people out there. I don't think he was one of those coaches that the players hated him, that they were, we need to get this guy out of here. Obviously, not the greatest game management coach in the history of football, but I can't kill you on the number here. My issue would be this Nebraska defense is so bad that potentially – Nebraska got steamed in every one of their games so far. Northwestern in the FCS game they played with North Dakota State, and then last week in Georgia Southern. They've taken money every single way. They're taking money again this week. So a lot of guys, my caution would be that the numbers and the projections haven't caught up to potentially how bad Nebraska could be. However, at this number, I would agree with you. That's the only side that I could play would be at 11. So, yeah, I'm not going to kill you on the number here. I would just caution that maybe that we haven't seen the total bottom fall out from Nebraska yet. So we'll see. I don't know. Whipple will now have, they're going to throw it 60 times now that Frost isn't there to annoy him. And maybe Mickey York gives him somewhat of a bump. It's this Nebraska defense could be like bad. And hopefully, for your sake here, that the program doesn't just fall off a ledge with kids, not giving a damn. So we'll see. Numbers wise, though, I can't hate it.
Well, you bring up an interesting point about Nebraska being steamed. I remember the year the Browns went 0-16. It was like every week they were taking steam. And you mentioned Nebraska. And you mentioned Nebraska now. This is every game this year. Now, is that sharp bettors just having more faith, having in their power rankings Nebraska higher than odds makers? How does that happen like that?
I know one, serious group out there that has been on Nebraska every week. And I think almost everybody expected some level of improvement, coming in from, at least a somewhat of a bump. They brought in a ton of transfers, somewhat of a bump here to see what Nebraska could improve. Casey Thompson coming in from last year to this year. And really what you've seen is, if anything, the defense is worse. And although I think the offense is at least, I like Mark Whipple. I like some of the things they've done. But when you factor in that the defense has been bad, they might actually be worse than last year, even though a lot of people were thinking they'd be an improvement. So far, the steam is 0 for 3 on Nebraska games. And we'll see. Hopefully, for your sake, it doesn't go 0 for 4. But I think the opinions of Nebraska were they'd be much better, and the market was a little deflated. If anything, now the number, at least, the opening number went completely to the other side, where, if anything, it was significantly inflated, and now it's come down again. So we'll see. But, that's a great Browns comp of one of those where, the number's inflated every week, but they can't cover the number and lose every week. We'll see if they can put it together.
All right. Well, I'm not feeling great here because I thought that was going to be the game you liked. So I'm gonna hit you with a game that even I admit sucks. I bet this game, and I've just been looking back and thinking, man, why'd you do that? Iowa minus 23. Again, this is a fade of Nevada, who I think is a dreadful football team. I feel like this is one of those games Iowa dominates defensively at home. I don't know. Even I'm a little weary about this, so go ahead.
I know there was 20 sitting there early, and some guys I know thought there was value on that, and then it hits 21, 20 and a half and keeps steaming. I personally, this is one of those that if you've been around the college, I cannot personally, even if you're seeing some number value where I agree with you. This should probably be, if you're just talking raw, ratings projections over 24. Nevada has had, absurd luck the first couple of weeks. They, gave up 50 plus an incarnate word. And they look, but basically they've had enough luck to just stay in games and get a result there even in the first week. They're bad. They're real bad. I can't lay. I know the whole thing is they've only scored 14 points and now they're laying 23. Iowa, if gun to my head, if there's a side, it would be on Iowa. I'm not touching it though. There's such a thin margin of error with a team that runs offense like Iowa, where if they're gonna cover this game, it's probably 28-3. I think that what's the total right now? I think the total is 39. So you're laying 23 in a total you have, 1 or 2 turnovers goes the wrong way. They don't have a dynamic passing offense. I think that hopefully I saw they might be getting, right now they're running Joey Knish at wide receiver 3. They had 2 scholarship receivers even healthy. I thought they might be getting a couple of potentially some back this week. I know the matchup suits them much better. They can run the ball. They should be able to. They do have an elite defense. I can't lay it at this point. At this point, at the 23, I agree. If it was the 20 or the 21, at this point, the 23, I think you're really playing with fire there. But I'm not going to jump in on Nevada there. So yeah, it's a pass for me around there. But I'll be rooting for you.
So you mentioned the total, right? The total's 39. When do you start to see, everybody sees the first 2 games, right? Iowa barely gets a first down. When does value start to come in for you on the over in Iowa games? Because 39 is a pretty low total in college football, especially with a team like Nevada, who doesn't have the best defense in the world.
First off, unfortunately, it's the beverage of choice here. I've had so much caffeine today that I can't stop. Like 5 o'clock, I hit the brakes and then switch back to water. Otherwise, I'll be having a stroke here at some point before that. But wise man who I know that bets totals. If you're watching the franchise, Kyle Francis, a friend of mine that we bet together, Weary does the man that bets an under in the 30s in college football. I tend to agree with you. I think you might see God, for your sake and for everybody and for the poor kids that the Children's Hospital in Iowa that have to watch these Iowa games, I hope they get some offense this week to actually be able to, so I agree with you. The only side I could play at 39 would be an over. Oh God, it's one of the. I would probably at 38, I would be a buyer. 38 was kind of a lower key number, especially in those that I was looking at. It's 39 and a half. At 38, I would buy on the over. I doubt it gets there. I've had my fill today, trust me. But no, if anything, even at 39, again, what we talked about with the margin of error with Iowa laying the 23 in this total, when you're playing if you want to bet an under on 39, you're talking about one fumble, 6 pick 6, special teams, key turnover in the red zone, where it's like the script is out the window. So yeah, I will actually bet a 38 if it pops. If not, it'd be another pass for me. I see a guy bet minus 22. I don't think the 22 is you didn't get a bad. I don't think you're going to close. You're going to get some plus CLV. I don't think you got in a bad number. It's just one of those teams and scripts and games that if the advantage is the better at. You don't have to bet every game on the board. This would be one that I'm just going to decide to pass on since I didn't get the early 20 or 21.
All right, well, I started off with some stinkers here. I got laying double digits with Rutgers. I'm laying double digits with Iowa. I got Nebraska. So
what are these games that you're betting? Jesus Christ, Tommy.
Well,
the worst teams in the country.
Well, look, this was a segue. They call these segues, Knish. Now, I actually bet a game with a heartbeat here. I took Washington -2 at home. I know that's gone up to -3, I believe. And one of the things the media doesn't do in college sports is they only talk about the 1% injuries, right? Michigan State lost 2 key defensive starters in the opener against Western Michigan and linebacker Darius Snow and safety Xavier Henderson. They didn't need them against Akron, but against this new look Washington offense with Michael Penix Jr. now healthy again. Listen, Washington had the worst coach in football last year, in my opinion. I watched that game against Montana and I said, this guy is terrible. But he had no clue. I think Washington makes a statement. They win that game easily. What do you say?
I know that one of my guys that I bet, Phil Ford bet -1. I know very sharp service that a lot of people know, 3-letter service released -3, I think -2.5 or -3 earlier today. So you saw that steam back across 3. I had talked early in the week with Mr. Powers that at Michigan State at a 4 and 3.5 would be a play for me. But if you're sitting on -2, I agree with you. Some of the injuries that there are less, some of the less widely known players for Michigan State and Jaden Reed, their best wide receiver, Jaden Reed. They don't talk, they don't disclose. Mel Tucker's not one to talk about injuries very publicly. So the info's been a little sketch on if he's going to play. But I agree. They're going to be down a couple of key players. Their offensive line hasn't looked great. And if there's a team that I was, wrong on going into the year, it would be Washington. I did not think Kalen DeBoer could turn it around this quick, that Michael Penix would look like the freaking Lamar Jackson through 2 weeks. That's one that probably my numbers have not caught up to how good Washington's been. I played some Michigan State when it crossed smaller at 4. But I think you're sitting good there. I can't hate you on this one. I think you're sitting good at -2. The market agrees with you. Some syndicates agree with you. And I think the sharp money so far has bought up all the Washington under 3. But if you're watching this now, I think I would not chase that across 3. So if you got in under 3, I think it's a good bet at 3.5 or 4, which might mostly widely 3.5. Now, I wouldn't chase Washington any further.
Okay, now this isn't a huge game, but it's a nationally televised game. Like with games like this, like these big games that are going to be on prime time. Perfect example would be Alabama, Texas last week, which was watched. It might be maybe the most watched college football regular season game of the season. How do you attack those? Do you do those any differently, knowing that more people are betting into the game?
Not really. I mean, it takes such like some of the content, other places that do the bet percentages and the publics on that. For the most part, there's not, there's such a rare game where the amount of, but you might be talking about like a college football playoff game where, some shop gets a massive, $1 million bet from a square whale, and they're giving, they're trading a 3.5 when everybody else is 3 or something like that. It's just the amount of handle on a lot of, even in the primetime games for college football, isn't really going to affect the spread enough to where I'm too worried about what people are on, or what the public's on, or what the handle could be, any of those. So it's got to be a mega like Super Bowl college football playoff game for any of that stuff to really have an impact on the line, where a shot might be so overweight they're going to give you an extra half point or a point or something like that. But for me, I don't really treat the the primetime stuff any differently than I would a Maction game. Maybe some of those numbers are I know tend to be a little bit more bet from people, but I don't think it's significantly sharper one way or another. Really, at this point, any FBS game that's traded out there and has for the most part similar limits is going to be capped, bet, filled, all that the same way.
Okay. Now my last game here, Knish, is now I got a tip on this one from a sharp friend. So I want to hear your thoughts to see if this is really a sharp play or if it's a bunch of nonsense. I took Ohio State Toledo over 62. He gave it to me at 61. I didn't get it in time. So I got the 62 number. So sometimes, I do a lot of my own handicapping. Sometimes I'll get a tip here and there from someone I know. This was a tip. He says, bet the over. Is this a sharp play, or was I bamboozled on this one?
Well, I don't think you would. I think you're a little late to the screen there, Tom. I know there was some sharp backs, 60.5, 61. But the Tommy, out there having a sun and a drink, didn't run to the screen to get the 61, and he waited for the 62, which is the 62.5 is pretty widely available. So yeah, that was a sharp play at 60.5. I could only play over there. That's one me and Mr. Powers actually have a disagreement on for our Hit the Books. He'd like Toledo at the 32.5. I like Ohio State at the 31. 32 got hit earlier today, and now it's 31. I like Ohio State at 30.5, 31. The over, I know there's still a couple of 62 flats out there. That would, again, it's key 61, pretty key in the total stuff. So I prefer the side. If you can get a Ohio State 31 is pretty widely available. But I don't hate the total. I can't hate the total there, as it took some sharp stuff at 60.5 and 61. I'm hoping Ohio State finally obviously JSB is not going to play, but hopefully this Ohio State offense can finally get kicked up in extra gear. I tell you one thing, I will give you the folks here a little prop play. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s. We played this, one of my prop guys liked, I think he was like 57.5 or something, 57.5, 59.5. Marvin Harrison Jr. over. So if you've got access to CFB props, that's one I like, because he was a key piece last week. Smith and Jigma's not going to be back by all indications, so he should be their number one wide receiver again. And Toledo it does not have the guy in the secondary to keep up. So, yeah, I can't hate it. But as far as your play, I like I would lean over as well.
So you like Ohio State. Now, is that because they haven't really, first two games, they've been there. They haven't looked like the Ohio State team we thought entering the season. So you think they're a little undervalued in this game now?
I maybe a touch. I think I had this a little above, right around 33. So if you can get, the key at 31, one place dropped to 30.5 for a second. I think you're getting maybe a touch of discount, but again, their best player on offense is out. So I mean, he was their best player last year. It was going to be, probably the best wide receiver in the country this year. So there is definitely, he's one of those skill players that has an impact. Now I know they've got 5 starts coming out of the womb there at the wide receiver room, but outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., there are other guys, there are other big 5-star players haven't really shown out yet. So I can see why a little bit of the market stuff's down on Ohio State. I do think the defense has improved significantly under Jim Knowles. At least, Toledo likes to run for different stuff. I think Knowles will be much better prepared for that. This is a game last year, Ohio State's defense against this Toledo offense, I would not have laid out. I would be much more concerned. I think Jim Knowles can at least have them more prepared, and you're seeing some improvements in terms of just schematically what they do. So this cover will be all about if the offense can really kick it up a notch. And MAC team, non-con, significant talent disadvantage. So yeah, that one for me was a play at 31, and I don't mind your over either.
Okay, so my 5 bets: Rutgers minus 17.
Oh, you start. Those first two, you're really.
I came out swinging. I came out swinging with Rutgers and Temple, and I don't mess around. So Rutgers minus 17, Nebraska plus 11. Iowa minus 23, Washington minus 2, and the over in Ohio State, Toledo, 62. Those are my 5 plays this week. Now, we're going to put something on the line here at some point during the season, but they're telling me all I got to do is hit 50%. I mean, I don't know. I think I can hit 50%. We'll see how it goes, although I did have a bad college football season last year, to be honest with you.
What? 50? Who's doing the math for this show? 50% losing your money. Yeah, at least give him the 53% or something here. If we're gonna put something on the line. 50%.
Well, Knish, listen. The guy who's running this place, Alex Moretto, I hired him at the Score. I gave him his start in the business. I think he's repaying me by I only have to hit 50%.
Tom, that explains a lot, Tom. I got to tell you, that really explains a lot. Where Moretto and Pizzola is going to be the death of me by the end of football season.
So before we go, Knish, I got a couple of questions for you.
Hit me, baby.
One, I saw that you hit an interesting Heisman bet earlier in the week. You hit J.J. McCarthy, named the quarterback at Michigan, and you said 50-1 you got him at. And you said, the schedule sets up nicely. And you mentioned something very important that I always consider in a Heisman bet. He's got the story. Yeah. The Heisman voters love the story. I mean, there's a Netflix documentary out right now on Manti Te'o, right? Listen, whatever you think of him, he shouldn't have been second in the Heisman. He wasn't good enough to be second in the Heisman. It was the story that made him second in the Heisman, right? So tell me why you like – is this just a homer pick? Listen, I know you like to bet your home teams. Hopefully you weren't on that Tigers over 77.5 wins like me. That's the worst bet I've ever made. But sure. Yeah, they wouldn't hit that over if they played until Christmas. But J.J. McCarthy, 50-1. Give us your analysis on that one.
Yeah, that number's come down in a lot of places since hitting it. I'll hit those games after I finish up here. But as far as McCarthy, a lot of places now 20-25. I like 50 because, as you said, there hasn't been a Michigan quarterback in the middle of the Heisman race in like 25 years or something. I can't even remember. Like, it's been since, Joey K was, playing Little League or something. Since, any Michigan quarterback was even in the Heisman race. You factor in the next month, they've got nothing but peasants. A super easy schedule. He should be able to rack up some numbers. It sounds like they're not going to do that, QB switch. It sounds like he's going to be the guy. So I like the narrative. I like the fact that Michigan's schedule sets up real nice. I like that. I think they're going to be favored in the first 11 games. So that's one of those. And I mentioned this to Brad on Monday's show. If they go 11, if this team is 11-0 going into Columbus, I think he's going to be like you're going into that game with a ticket where I think if McCarthy wins that game and they went 12-0, he would win the Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams has put up nice numbers. Yes, I don't think Bryce Young has really any chance to win back-to-back. C.J. Stroud, as you said, Ohio State's a little slow out of the gate. There's some other guys, Gabriel, Hooker, guys that I don't think, those teams, I don't think have a chance to win 11 or 12 games. I do think this Michigan team does, which kind of gives him the one up there as far as playing a longer price. So if you've got some I think it's come down most ever. So would I recommend it at 20? No. Did I like it at 50? There was some places even 80. That was more of a buy for me at this point. It'd be more of a sit to see where he looks in a month. Because again, if he gets hurt, if Michigan drops a game here as a big favorite, then that's dead here. But I'm kind of projecting that Michigan's going to be 6, 7, 8-0, and then he's going to be right in the thick of it.
Well, I followed you on this one, and it wasn't because I wasn't quick to the trigger. I got 40-1 because I live in the state of New York, and they wrote some obscure law in 1842, so now I can't bet Heisman Trophy odds in New York State for another 50 years until they change that law. But 40-1, is that okay? You don't mind that?
Yeah, you know why? Because you've already seen it come down. A lot of places to 20 and 25. If Michigan goes 6-0, the guy puts up some, even reasonable stats, then he's going to be sitting there, 8-1, 10-1, 5-1, depending on what some of the other guys in the competition do. But there's not a lot of scenarios where, unless he gets hurt or Michigan loses as, a 4-touchdown favorite or something over the next 5 to 6 weeks, that you're not going to be sitting good, with some value in that ticket. And then they'll get into the meat of the schedule, like a Penn State primetime games versus Penn State, night game versus Michigan State, and obviously the game in Columbus where, he would have a chance if this team does go 9, 10, 11-0, then you're sitting, real nice where he's going to be one of the chalk up there with the rest of the guys.
Okay, sounds good. Now we got a question in the chat here, Knish. Someone wants to know, listen, hey, 2 home dogs tonight, right? Louisville 2.5, Wyoming 16.5. You like either of those games, total side?
No, I don't like either of those. I know there was a sharp service that we talked about earlier, gave out Florida State earlier today. It's steamed to 3 for a minute, then bounced back. It's been mostly trading 2, 2.5. I know I see some 3s out there actually that just popped for Louisville. I'm not. Listen, I am not a Malik Cunningham guy. I thought Louisville's defense showed out versus UCF. The defensive line in the second half of that game was fantastic. Won them the game. If you can keep Malik Cunningham in the pocket, he is not a plus quarterback. He had one explosive play in the second half, which was a difference last week. I can't. I think Mike Norvell and his defensive staff can put together a game plan where if Louisville cannot run the ball, you can make this offense very, very pedestrian. Because I'm just not a Malik Cunningham believer. So for me, it would be Florida State minus 2.5 or nothing. The other game, I like Air Force a lot this year, and I hate Wyoming. But again, now it's steamed up. This was one that touched 14 earlier in the week. You're really paying a premium on Air Force now. It's 16.5, 17. I don't want to. I think it's one of those where Wyoming's defense, which used to be a good Mountain West defense and a team that was stingy, that's all gone. They lost so many players to the transfer portal. Had such a talent drain. I don't respect what they're doing on off whatsoever. And it's one of those. I think Air Force can kind of they're going to run they're going to run their triple option, and I don't think Wyoming's going to be able to stop it. It's one for me. I know the totals come down a bit. So in the first game, it'd be Florida State minus 2.5. And then I think the number's right for Air Force Wyoming. I'm not going to recommend anything for people to jump on there.
All right. Well, hey, listen, before we go, Knish, give us a game maybe that we're not thinking about that's getting some action. Is there a game that's jumped out to you this week that maybe some of the pro bettors are on that is on the radar for everybody?
If you can grab this again, this is one that I like. Brad and I talked about it earlier in the week when Mississippi State got steamed down to -1, -1.5 for people to grab. It's up back to 3 at most places. I would still, there's a couple of 2.5s hanging out there. I would still play that one. I like that that number is still pretty widely available. Look, Maryland -2.5. A couple guys that I talked to and worked with today were big on Maryland. Again, this open pick at it's kind of steamed up to 2.5. I still like if you can grab the 2.5. I'm an SMU believer. I think they're going to be a contender in the American this year. I don't like it. This game against this Maryland team. I think Maryland's defense has actually looked better than I thought they would, and they have offensive talent that rivals anybody in the Big Ten, including the Michigan and the Ohio States. They have fantastic offensive talent. I think they put up a number this week against SMU. So as far as one that I still like, that's widely available. The Maryland -2.5 would be a buy for me.
All right, sounds good. And don't forget to subscribe to the Hammer NCAA Football on YouTube and Twitch. Turn on notifications. The next edition of Hit the Books, Joey, come to you live Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern with you and Brad Powers. Why don't you plug the show and tell everybody what to look for there?
Yeah, Monday, we usually do early best bet, and that's when you can get the best value. Early in the week, Monday, we're giving out some numbers. Most of those should be able to beat the market. You're getting some CLV by the end of the week. We do a recap of the weekend before, a little bit, do market update, Heisman update, any futures or any of that stuff. And then hopefully, give out a couple of best bets that we like early enough in the week where, you should get some good CLV there. So, hit the books. Happen to be, hitting it with you, though, on Friday, Tommy. I'm pulling for you this year, baby. Let's see if, you can. And worst case, if it goes terrible, I can just dunk on you all year. So, it's a win-win for Joey Knish. So that's how I like it.
Yeah, hey, listen, I gave you my first 5 bets. I got some bad teams in there. Next week, I might come with some better teams. We'll see. I didn't love the card this week, Knish, to be honest with you. So that's why I was kind of dabbling around a little bit. Looked at next week's games. Feel I got some spots there that I like. So, we'll see how I do. Hey, give me 3 and 2. All I got to do is finish above 50%, apparently. I know people here. But, hey, this was a great first show. I can't wait to do this with you every Friday. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. One of the best follows that there is, Joey Knish 22 on Twitter. I'm Thomas Casale at the Tom Casale on Twitter. I'm not nearly as good, but you can follow me if you want. If you don't like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, if you don't want to see Syracuse constantly playing the 2-3 zone, I'm your man. Knish, have a great weekend. Good luck with all your bets, and I will see you next Friday.
You too, brother. We'll do it again.